Thank you, Jane, for that very insightful and easy to follow guide on how to start an e-commerce store. So now we're at that point where you've learned how to start, launch, and grow your store and how to optimize it with certain tools. But then how are you going to get your product to the consumers once they place an order? Shipping has become such a critical point with a lot of consumers now demanding fast and free shipping. Valerie Normand, Director of Product Development from Canada Post, is going to share a series of must-knows for merchants to consider when it comes to order fulfillment, all to exceed the growing expectations of the consumer while reducing time and headaches as well. Please welcome Valerie.
Perfect, thank you. Good afternoon. I'm really tall, so hope this mic works well so I don't have to crouch the whole time. So I'm obviously not as cool as Kylie Jenner, and Canada Post, most of you would say, is not sexy in any way, shape, or form, but I'm going to try to change your mind a little bit today. So shipping is a little bit of the necessary evil of e-commerce. When we set up a store, we spend a lot of time thinking about the marketing, the acquisition, and then you get your first order, and there's a little bit of panic. It's like, oh, I didn't actually think that somebody was going to place an order, and now I actually have to get it to that person. How am I going to do that? How much is that going to cost? What are the things that I need to consider? Oh, a warehouse. Oh, I thought that my basement was going to do for a little while. And then you start to outgrow that. So I'm going to touch on a lot of these topics today. This is going to be, it can be interactive, so we can ask some questions along the way, but there's always going to be some period at the end as well for questions too. And then hopefully I can have a little bit of clarity for you as to shipping 101, basically. So Canada Post, we have a little bit of an advantageous position in the market in the sense that 2 out of 3 shipments that are shipped for e-commerce from business to consumers are actually shipped through Canada Post. So we have anywhere between 60 to 70% market share of the market today. What that gives us is insight as to what the market looks like. So how do shoppers behave? What are they purchasing? We have visibility on where the boxes come from and then where they're going to. So we can actually start to look at the metadata and look at what the landscape of the Canadian market actually looks like. So you can see up on the screen here that we've seen tremendous growth. If you look at the last 3 to 4 years on e-commerce, we've seen double-digit growth year over year. 2015 over 2014, we saw again 15% growth year over year. And we can start to see the key markets that are growing and at what percentage. And of course, the GTA area, Toronto, the central, southern Ontario is still growing at significant speed, going anywhere between 23% London, Hamilton, 18%, Toronto is still growing at 18% year over year. That's very interesting because the majority of the population actually lives in that area. And we're still seeing leaps and bounds when it comes to e-commerce growth. So not only are more Canadian shoppers shopping online, they're shopping more and more. Hence the reason why e-commerce is becoming such an important part of any retailer's growth strategy. Now, when we start to think about the online shopping experience, so again, we often focus on that first portion of this graph, the acquisition of the shopper. So what, how do I get them to my site? How do I get them interested in my product? Once you have them on your site, what's the checkout experience? What's important inside of a checkout experience? And the reality is that shipping is now critical in that checkout experience. People want to know how much is it going to cost to ship the item to me? When do I expect to receive it? Where can I track my item? Is it directly on your site? And then what if it happens that the shirt that I bought doesn't fit or the color is not quite right? How do I return it to you? What's your return policy? So I'm going to take you through the whole shopping experience and the whole shopping cycle today. We're going to start with what happens when somebody places an order, what's important in that order checkout experience, and what aspects should you put in there. We're then going to touch on how do I retrieve these orders. So do I retrieve them manually? Is there an automated way for me to gather my orders? Do I sell on multiple platforms? We heard from Shopify here today. We have an integrated solution with Shopify, which is fantastic, but do you also sell on Amazon? Do you sell on eBay? Do you have your own store? Do you have any other marketplaces that you sell onto that you want to integrate? And how do you collect these orders all back to one place? We're also going to talk about, again, the non-sexy part, the pick and pack and the warehousing, and how do you set up your products? What type of packaging should you use? How do you go from, and we're going to go a little bit over some of the basics, but what's the difference between having my fulfillment center in my basement or in my spare bedroom and versus a warehouse? And so what are the basic things that I need to know? And then the actual shipping of the order. So what are the options? How can I get the product to the carrier? And then, what are the various speed and costs that are associated with that? And then we're going to finish with returns. So returns are a reality of e-commerce, and it's very important in the checkout experience to have that return policy being clear and so on. And we're going to talk a little bit about how to enable an easy and simplistic return solution for your customers. So we're going to talk about online orders first. When it comes to shipping, there's various different speed and types of product that you can offer. Canada Post, and the way I'm going to talk about today, obviously I work for Canada Post, so I'm going to talk mainly about what we have to offer, but if you choose any carrier out there, the same type of principles and the same logics apply. So I'm not trying to just pitch you on Canada Post today, but I will talk about it from a Canada Post perspective, just because that's the living and breathing that I do. So we have 3 different types of products when it comes to tracked product. Tracked means barcoded. We can track it through the system. A lot of people, think about Canada Post, the letter mail portion of it. This is really the parcels portion of the products. So we have what we call priority, which is our next day service. Express post for the ones that want it a little bit faster, and then expedited, which is really, the bread and butter of e-commerce. This is where the vast majority of e-commerce is leveraging the expedited service, which is kind of the lower speed, more cost-effective, what we would potentially refer to as the cheap and cheerful type of product, but very reliable, that gets it there on time. It's important to consider the fact that shoppers want options. So although the majority of e-commerce happens in the expedited stream, meaning the slower, cheaper service, it is still important to offer some of the faster options for your shoppers. So if I forgot that it was my mother's birthday and her birthday is tomorrow, and I really need an item to be shipped to me quickly because I want to give it to her before the weekend, I'm pretty much willing to pay anything to get that item there faster. So even though it may not be a top-selling item, it's still important to show these options and to have these options available to your shoppers, because you do not know what situations they're in at that specific time and what they would be willing to do in order to get your product faster. How are shipping rates calculated? So it's somewhat simple yet complicated. There's a lot of variables in how shipping rates are calculated. It is all based, first of all, on the size and the weight of your product. So if you're shipping, for example, a large pillow, which is very light when it comes to weight, but quite large when it comes to size, it is always the greater of the two. So volumetric weight versus actual weight, it is always the greater of the two that is selected, because this pillow, although it may not be heavy, will take up room in an airplane or in a truck. So the volumetric aspect is important. And it also depends on origin and destination. So if you ship from within Toronto to Toronto versus Toronto to Vancouver, obviously the further you have to go in general, the more expensive shipping will be. So take that into account when you offer shipping rates, especially if you consider things like free shipping offers or flat rate, which I'm going to touch on later. How shipping is calculated, where your main consumer base is situated, where your warehouse is situated. We've seen, especially some of the larger retailers, of course, that can afford that, to have potential more than one warehouse or more than one location, or potentially leveraging one of your store as a mini DC or a mini warehouse to ship closer to your shoppers. For example, out west, if you've got a high user base out west, it may be worthwhile to consider shipping from a closer proximity to your shoppers. So when it comes to shipping fees, so it's very important to display and to give the shipping information to your customers as they're checking out. 25% will actually complete an order if shipping fees are given right up front. It is not well seen, and especially, there are a lot of best practices in the market, and more people are actually displaying shipping fees right up front. The shopper gets upset when they've selected your product, they've entered all of their addressing information, credit card information, and then you tell them, oh, by the way, it's going to be $12 for shipping. Then you get a really high shopping cart abandonment. So it's important to display that information right up front so that the customers knows all in what are all the costs associated with placing an order. Now, there's various different ways, so it's a bit of a business decision on your side as to how you want to display shipping rates and what you want to charge for shipping rates. So you can pass on straight through the rates from origin to destination directly to your shopper, exactly what you would pay, for example. So I know that Shopify is one example of the platform that can actually pass on those rates directly to your consumers so that they're just charged exactly what you're being charged. There's other options that we've seen as well, and which is flat rate. So you can say, okay, for all orders, it's going to be a $5 flat rate if you're trying to incite customers to shop on your site, close out transactions. And you can eat up a little bit some of that cost potentially in your margins if you're trying to do a promotion. Or if you want to do a flat rate, for example, on expedited ground, the cheaper service, but then charge a little bit of an inflated rate on an express product, knowing that the customer is not as price sensitive when they really want it there quickly, and they're willing to potentially pay that extra mile to make up a little bit of some of the costs on the expedited ground. Another thing that we've seen a lot in the market that's really becoming a best practice, although for small medium businesses, it might be a little bit more challenging to do on a permanent basis, is the idea of free shipping. So we know very well, based on a lot of research, and we have a lot of research that you can look at on canapos.ca, which I'll give you the link a little bit later on. We have a ton of research, obviously, that says that Canadian shoppers want free shipping. Is that realistic all the time? Maybe not. Sometimes your margins may allow for that. Sometimes a certain amount of order, like let's say over $50, $100, may allow you in your margins to be able to offer free shipping. But the reality is that cost of shipping is a cost of shipping to you. It's a cost of doing business. But could you potentially leverage that for a promotion for a certain amount of time? Or free shipping is, shipping is free on your first order with us. There's ways to play around with this as a promotion, as an incentive, to get people to close that order and finish that shopping cart and order that product and try it from you for the very first time, potentially. We're going to talk a little bit about how to retrieve orders. So there's various different ways to retrieve orders, and it becomes very challenging, especially if you're selling on multiple different platforms. So you can do that manually. Some people still do it one-to-one. They will pull out the orders out of a Shopify platform, out of Amazon, and so on. And then you can either key that into a shipping system or an order management system, or you can potentially import it as a file, whether you export it CSV file, Excel file, and then import that into a shipping tool. There are tools in the market, though, to help you do that. Shopify being one of them, directly into their platform. If you are set up as a store on Shopify, you can actually have your order management system basically built into the system. Although that system is somewhat limited in functionality. It's really, really tailored for small businesses who have, 3 to 4 orders a day potentially. It's basing in its functionality. There are a lot of other systems out there, and I know that the Shopify team touched on the App Store per se. So where companies like OrderCup and ShipStation will basically amalgamate all of your orders, not just from Shopify, but actually from all of the different platforms that you're selling into, and amalgamate all of your orders all in one place. They do that for a very low monthly fee, and you can go on these websites to actually get the information. And I'll touch on it a little bit later on as well. So not only do they gather all of your orders and you can have all of your orders in one place, you can actually fulfill your orders, track your orders, all in those systems. So they're a lot more advanced, I guess, in terms of functionality that you can do. I touched on this a little bit. You have here an example of ShipStation and how all of your orders basically from all the multiple platforms can actually come together into one location for you to be able to manage. So obviously, as your business grows, this becomes more and more important as you need to be a lot more efficient in managing your time, obviously, and the resources that you have. Pick and pack. The fun part of e-commerce, the dirty part of e-commerce. So that's a reality. If you're selling a product, you actually need to have a packing station and a shipping station to be able to fulfill. What's important to understand, though, is what does your product mix look like? So do you have SKUs that are higher turnover? So when you fulfill an order and when you set up your warehousing, whether again it's in your basement or in that spare bedroom or you've outgrown that and it's now in a warehouse location, how do you set up your product? Do you have again products that sell faster that you can set up closer to your pick and pack station? And I'm going to talk about how to set up a little bit the warehousing facility in a bit. But how do you maximize your space? And how often do you process orders? So do you process order once a day at the end of the day? Do you process it, twice a day? How many orders are you getting? Is it every couple days? Keep in mind, though, that when we talked about shipping earlier on and shipping costs, customers also expect an expected delivery date. So are you making a promise in your checkout experience as to how quickly that customer is going to get their product? So it's one thing to get the carrier's date displayed to your shopper to say, okay, you will receive, if you give it to Canada Post today, I can tell you when I'm going to give it to your shopper. It's going to be in 2 days or 1 day, depending on where it's at. But take into account your fulfillment time. So if you promise your shopper, yes, it's going to be there in 2 days because Canada Post said it was going to be there in 2 days, well, I can only get it there as fast as I have it in my hands. So you actually need to fulfill that order and give it to the carrier for them to be able to meet that timeline that you've promised to your shopper. So is it 24-hour turnaround, 48-hour turnaround for you to fulfill that order before you give it to the carrier? So if that's the case, if it's a 48-hour turnaround for you to fulfill that order, make sure that it's clear on your website. And make sure that the promise that you give your shopper is there. So the shopper, then it's going to be, you're going to receive your orders in 4 days, not in 2 days, if it takes you 48 hours to turn around your fulfillment. So take that into consideration as your customers are making that order from you. Because it's important to set expectations. There's nothing worse than not meeting an expectation. If the expectation is set properly and the customers knows what to expect, then you're golden. But if you do not meet that expectation, that's when it becomes a challenge and the experience becomes negative, and then they won't be enticed to come back and shopping on your site. So there's the basics of setting up a fulfillment. So I will not spend too much time on that. I think every situation is a little bit different, but we do have a blog on canadapost.ca that gives you information about how to set up a warehousing and fulfillment center. A few key tips and tricks, though, to keep in consideration is make sure that you have an ingoing station and an outgoing station. So the items that are coming in from your suppliers, products that need to be checked in, products that need to be put on the shelves, either by SKUs, by alphabetical order, however it is. And then you have your outgoing stations for the orders that are ready and to be fulfilled and to be shipped. And if you can, make sure that that outgoing station is close to the door. Because if you have a carrier coming to your home or to your warehouse every day to pick up your orders, you don't want them to have to go through multiple rows of product to get to the back where your pick and pack station is to pick up the items and get them out the door. So just small, and it's funny when you don't necessarily think about that when you set it up. It's very basic. It's not rocket science here, but it makes things much smoother, much easier for everyone, and much clearer. And put up a sign, out in. Very simple, but makes it very clear. And it's one thing when you have still yourself and your mom or your husband fulfilling orders for you because they know where things are. But as soon as you start to outgrow that, and now you have a student come in to help, or that you have, you've got some more staff, make sure that it's very clear, and make sure that your packing station has all of the material required. So that we're talking boxes, we're talking paper or padding if your items are fragile, scissors, tape. They're very basic things, but it's important to have it all there so that you can maximize the efficiency of those people fulfilling your orders for you. Choosing the right type of packaging. Again, I'm not going to spend too much time on that, but it's important to understand your products, what your products look like, and how they handle being transported. So if your items are fragile, make sure that you consider at least an extra 2-inch on each side of whatever box that you choose for additional protection, additional padding. The reality is that when we ship an item, it goes and flows through the system. And the item should be able to withstand a drop of, if you were to hold the box at the end of your hands and drop the box, it should be able to withhold that. I mean, we're obviously not going to start throwing your box around. That's not the intent. But the reality is that as it goes through a system, it will go through automated facilities, and it has to flow through certain areas. So make sure that it is well protected. Is it a box that you have? Is it potentially a bag? If it's clothing, that's a little bit easier or cheaper to handle. And the reality is shipping packaging is also part of the total cost of the item that you send. So make sure that you source suppliers potentially. It's always cheaper to buy in bulk. So I've got a few names of companies. We do not get any type of association with these companies, but there's a few companies that offer packaging in bulk that can help you. And think about that box experience as well. Think about the one thing that you need to consider, especially for a small medium business, and I talked a little bit this morning about the reality that you're competing against the big guys. So you're competing against Amazon, you're competing against Aritzia, you're competing against Lululemon, you're competing against those people that have potentially a lot more resources than you do. The way that you can compete with these people is to have that experience being unique. And I was on the panel this morning with the woman with the sock company and then the tees company. It's all about that unique experience with your shopper. And it's as much on your website as it is when they receive the item at home. So it's important to think about, okay, what's that receiving experience going to look like? Am I going to open this box and have potentially a handwritten note saying thank you for your purchase, or potentially an offer coupon for your next order? Are you going to have some kind of colored paper in there, or is your box going to be branded, or like how are you going to retain that customer? How are you going to make this a really beautiful, positive experience for your shopper? So it is like that shipment is a marketing opportunity just as much as your website, and you know that they've already purchased something from you. Like you have an opportunity to leverage this to keep that customer coming back on your site and making that experience amazing. And there's even people online now that are doing what they call unboxing experience, and they basically film themselves doing a little YouTube video, and when they're like happy with a company and they unbox the product that they've purchased. Like just think about how you can leverage that as a marketing opportunity for your company. All right, we're going to dig into the actual shipping of the orders. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to print a shipping label. So I talked to you earlier about the various different platforms, different ways that you can actually get your orders from all the different platforms or marketplaces that you're selling to. So these systems also enable you to be able to print and fulfill a shipping label. So you've got different options. Some of them are directly embedded into your platform. And Canada Post has done some extensive work. So actually part of what my team has been doing for the last 4 years is work directly with these platforms providers, so such as Shopify, Magento, IBM, and so on. Like we've got the whole list on our Canada Post website. But what we've done is we've enabled that technology to be ready for you so that you don't have to code it yourself, and it's embedded inside of your platform, and you can print a shipping label directly from there. So Shopify, I believe, have shared with you a little bit what that new application looks like. We just launched a new one actually in the fall of 2016. So you can now print labels directly on your Shopify store. There's also other shipping applications. So the application that, for example, Shopify has directly built into their store is really tailored for very small businesses. So if you print 2 to 3 orders a day, it's fantastic. It's very easily integrated. It's right there. But you do have to enter the information, and the labels are created one-on-one. So you don't have the ability to do bulk production of labels if you import a lot of orders. So depending on the size of customers that you're at now, you may want to consider some other applications such as Order Cup, Ship Robot, ShipStation, which again will gather your orders from all various different selling platforms that you have and can help you fulfill your orders directly into that system, right in your, I guess, ShipStation application, and you can print shipping labels and monitor your orders directly there as well. They also keep the tracking number, and can send that back and push that information back either directly to your customers or through your platform for them to be able to seek and see where their order is at that point in time. Canada Post also has some tools. So keep in mind the other tools that I've shared, most of them have a fee associated with them. So Canada Post obviously has our own set of shipping tools. We've got what we call here EST Online, which is available today. We're just about to launch, we're in beta now for a new shipping system called SnapShip, which will be available very shortly. And you can access all of those through either your Solutions for Small Business, which if you're interested in, so we have a program called Solutions for Small Business, which basically gives you shipping discounts. So the more you ship, the more you save. You can sign up, it's completely free, gives you access to all of the tools that Canada Post has to offer, where again you can create shipping labels and everything is there for free. And you basically auto-graduate as you ship more and more. Canada Post will reward you with more and more shipping discounts on your orders. So if you want more information, there is a table that's set up right up here where the sandwiches were earlier, and they can give you all the information as to how to sign up for that. So I touched a little bit on this about what makes sense for me. So again, depending on the size of your business and depending on the type of tool that you would like in terms of sophistication of the tool, you basically can graduate from one to another. Again, there's things that are directly integrated in your platform if you're a smaller business, but it's very convenient, directly into the Shopify platform. Once you grow a little bit more and need a little bit more order management capabilities, again, if you sell on more than one marketplace, again, the Shopify shipping tool is great, but it's only for your orders that are actually sold on Shopify, so you still need a solution for the orders that are sold on Amazon Marketplace or eBay or Etsy or wherever you are. So systems like, again, Order Cup, Ship Robot, ShipStation are fantastic. They're already all integrated with Canada Post and can be leveraged to fulfill all of your orders. And of course, there's the Canada Post free tools, either EST Online or SnapShip, that are available to you. Again, very basic, but important to point out. So no matter what shipping system you use, no matter what carrier you use, you will need some hardware. You will need a printer. So you will need either a thermal printer or a laser printer, so a home printer. If you choose a laser printer, keep in mind that you will need some form of way to affix that label to that box. A thermal printer or peel and stick type of labels. And you will also need a scale. So those are the very basics, but extremely important in your pick and packing station, because this is how you will be able to actually complete that order, weigh that order, and make sure that all your shipping costs are actually accurate as well. So it's important. You don't want to estimate your shipping costs too much up front. And then especially if you pass on those costs to your consumer and then realize that, oh, I actually didn't weigh that box properly, and now I'm getting charged an extra $2 as it goes through the stream because there was not enough postage on the item, and now you're charged that item back. So make sure that you have those basics and that your shipping rates are accurate when you're getting them up front. Now, how do you get it to the carrier? So there's different ways to get at that. So for Canada Post, you can drop your shipments into any street letter box. There's 20,000 of them out there in the market. You can bring it to any retail post office. Any retail location will actually take your items. And we also do offer pickup. So a lot of people don't realize that Canada Post offers pickup, so we can actually come and pick up the items directly from you, either what we call scheduled or on demand. So on demand means that you're shipping orders today, and so you're requesting a pickup, and we will come either that day if the time allows it, or the next day if ever the request was made a little bit too late. Or we have scheduled pickup. So if you've got regular orders on a daily basis or potentially 3 times a week, we can schedule that ahead of time, and we can pick up on a regular basis at your location. There is more information, again, on that on our blog, so you can go in and take a look and get some more information about pickup. Now, completing that positive online experience. So it's very important to realize that, e-commerce is fantastic. You've got all your beautiful pictures of your product online. You've got your marketing done. You've brought that shopper on your site. They've placed that order. They've given you money. But really, they haven't bought anything from you until they actually receive that sweater and they try it on and it fits and it's the right color and they're satisfied with that experience, and that receiving experience was convenient. So the reason why they shop online is because they want convenience. If you make me drive to the airport to pick up my package because I was actually at work during the day and couldn't be home to receive my item, that is not convenient. So make sure that you think about the landscape, because the reality is Canada has a very different landscape than the US, for example. So we are very sporadic. We're not as dense in terms of population. I mean, downtown core Toronto, yes, of course, there's a lot more density, but you are actually exposing yourself to a wide variety of shoppers and a very different market all through Canada. So you need to think about what that receiving experience looks like and what type of options. Like, it's important to give control to your shopper as far as what the delivery experience looks like, and giving them options such as flex delivery. So Canada Post offers a service where you can actually pick the post office of your choice where we're going to deliver the item to. If the one close to your home that Canada Post selects is not convenient to you, you want one close to work or close to your babysitter or on your path on your way home from work, you can actually enable that. And so there's technology that allows you to do that, whether directly embedded in your website or by offering flex delivery, which is basically a separate address that your customer would just put into your site. It's like a P.O. box address that will just send the item straight to the post office of their choice. We offer community mailboxes and parcel lockers and so on. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the landscape of the Canadian market. So the reality is that 4 million residents, so 4 million points of call, are actually in apartments and condos. So apartments and condos are very complex, I guess, to deliver to. So most carriers cannot actually get through the front door. So they can only put a sticker outside of the glass door of the building because they don't actually have access to the building. Now, most of your users will have underground parking and take the elevator straight to their unit. and will not actually see that item, that door knocker, if you want to call it that, on the outside of the door for potentially a few days until they go out in the lobby. And I'm going to plug in Canada here just a little bit, but Canada has access to the inside of the building. And we've actually been, over the last 3-4 years, deploying parcel lockers inside of apartments and condos. So that, knowing very well that that population actually has jobs and they work during the day and they're not necessarily home to receive their packages, but yet they shop online a lot, how do we make it convenient for them to receive their packages? And so we've actually got over 3,500 parcel lockers. So we're serving over 1 million Canadians actually today with parcel lockers inside of high-rise apartments and condos, mainly in the downtown cores, of course, of the Toronto and so on. So how do we make sure that that delivery experience is a positive delivery experience? We've got community mailboxes throughout the country where really I call them parcel lockers right by your home. So again, if you're not going to be home during the day, what's the most convenient way to pick up your item? And of course, we still do deliver parcels to the door. And when we do, and the customer is not home, we actually have more post offices, actually 2 times more post offices than Tim Hortons and McDonald's combined. We have the largest footprint network in Canada. No one comes even close to the network that Canada Post has. Now, Amazon calls us Amazon pickup points. So Amazon basically just uses Canada Post in the same way that you do. So basically, each and every one of you in this room has the same network that Amazon does by leveraging the carrier. So you have the same reach that a large player like Amazon does today. How are you leveraging that? And are you maximizing that opportunity? The last piece that I'm going to touch on and dig into is returns. So again, returns are a reality of e-commerce, and it is extremely important in that buying decision when customers are shopping online. They want to know if they will be able to return and how convenient is it going to be. Is it going to be a painful experience, or is it going to be a good experience? Customers want, first and foremost, they want clarity. They want to know what your return policy is, and is it going to be 30 days, 60 days, are you going to take everything back, or is there limited SKUs that you're going to take back? Is there some specific reasons why you wouldn't take back a SKU? So they just want to know. They might not return the item, but it'll give them peace of mind and the confidence in shopping in your brand, knowing what the return policy would be like with you. And it's up to you. It's a business decision on your side to make it as lenient or as strict as you want, depending on the type of product that you sell. But just be clear up front and make it easy to find. Make sure that you either have a link, either directly on your homepage or as you check out, say, hey, here's how we handle returns. Make sure that it's easy to find, because when the customer is at that decision-making point, that might be the tipping portion, right? Whether they're going to complete that transaction with you or not. If they can't find that return policy, they may be scared and actually not complete that transaction. So no matter what that policy is, make sure that it is clear and easy to find on your website. And the simplicity of it. So do I have to go on your website and fill in a 20-minute survey and then call someone to get an authorization number, and then, oh, you're not giving me a return label, so now I have to go and find my way to a post office and figure out the costs of shipping that item back to you and then writing the address down? So how easy are you making it? So the fact that you make the return experience easier does not necessarily mean that you're going to get a higher rate of return. It just means that the experience is going to be more positive. If customer really wants to return something, they'll find a way to return something. And again, make that policy clear up front. But making that experience simple and easy and convenient doesn't mean that you're automatically going to get an increase in number of returns. And we'll talk a little bit about how you can do that and what customers want. So we've done actually a tremendous amount of research, and we just have actually a new white paper just on returns that just got published last month, and you can have access to it directly on the Canada Post website, and it can give you all the information that you need. But some of the codes notes here of what people are looking for. So Canadians, obviously 84% would want a return experience to be free shipping to ship it back. So most of them would have purchased something online, they would want that back. Does that mean that you can offer that? Not necessarily, but again, as much as it's as long as it's clear right up front what the experience is going to be, you can say to your customer, okay, well, I'll provide you a return label, but I'm going to charge you back $6.95 off of your order to cover that shipping cost back. And customers would expect, and you'll see that in the white paper, customers would expect to have to potentially pay something, unless obviously the product is defective or you've shipped the wrong item and so on, and the issue comes on your end. They would expect to potentially have to pay some form of fee to give the product back to you. 52% said that they would want a return label in the original shipment. Make it easy, print the return label. 44% said that they wouldn't want free shipping in store. So this is where I touched on that a little bit in the panel this morning. You can have a joint collaboration, I guess, or you can bring people into your store by offering free returns inside of your brick and mortar store. You can bring that traffic, and you can also leverage that as an opportunity to potentially not lose that sale. Have your staff have a consultation exercise with that person to say, hey, oh, this one didn't fit. The small was too small. Would you like a medium? Or you didn't like the orange. Do you want blue? So there's a way to interact with that customer as to not to lose that sale if you bring some of that traffic back to your store. We have various ways at Canada Post. We're a little bit of the kings of returns. We have many ways that you can get return labels, whether it's online. We've got tools like the Return Policy Center that basically allow you to set up a return policy with Canada Post, and then we will handle returns basically on your behalf. So you can send a link to your customers for them to be able to print a return label. There's no integration required. They'll be able to print that on your behalf, or you can even send them to the retail post office and we'll print that label for you. We can even ask for a return authorization number for you if you want to have that type of experience. So again, more information is available on our website on that, but there are multiple ways to be able to get return labels. And what I want to point out here is that return labels, even if you include return labels, pre-printed return labels inside of each and every box, you are not charged for those return labels until they're inducted inside of the mail stream. So basically, only if and when they are used would you get charged for those labels. So there's no cost of getting those labels out to your shoppers. You're only charged for the shipping when it's actually inducted in the mail stream. And so that basically concludes my Shipping 101 course for you today. So we talked a little bit about what's important when placing an order. We talked about making sure that shipping costs, shipping dates are displayed right up front so that the customer can make an informed decision when making that purchase. We talked about how to retrieve orders. We talked about the various different technology that enables you to retrieve orders. As you grow, especially, it becomes more and more complicated if you're selling on multiple marketplaces. There's a lot of different tools that can help you do that. We talked a little bit about the basics of warehousing, packaging, what type of packaging that you should be using. Talked about shipping an order, what's important, thinking about that delivery experience as well for your customers, making sure that it's a positive one. And then, of course, we closed on returns and making sure that we never forget that piece because it is a very important part of the buying decision. If you want more information, I know I gave you a lot of information today, and I am open for questions. We do have a blog online that has a lot of different content that's not just published by Canada Post, content that's also published by some of our partners that can really help you get set up and get started with your small business. And the link is here, canadapost.ca/shippingblog, and it has a tremendous amount of information. And there's also a booth with our friends set up here at the top if you would like to ask some more personal questions. But I am open to questions, and I think we mentioned there's little mics that you can use, but I will repeat the question if I have to. Great, thank you. Yes?
Yeah, for some of your small stores where you take it to delivery, is there a maximum size or weight limitation to those before you take it to a further post office?
Sorry, I'm going to repeat your question just to make sure I understood. So you asked if we have maximum dimensions. So maximum weight or dimensions, yes, we do. We do. So Canada Post will carry up to 66 pounds and up to a maximum of no one dimension can be greater than 2 meters, but there are like overall volumetric restrictions, and there's surcharges for that type of volume. Usually like a standard size is up to 1 meter, I believe, and I'm looking at Rod, yes, okay. Some of my team members are here. So yeah, but all the specifications are actually on canadapost.ca, but we do have maximum. But our sister company, Purolator, actually can handle larger items that we cannot. So it's a safety and security thing for our employees because they're only one person, so it has to be manageable by one person. Whereas we can get up to white glove service with our sister company for larger items. No problem. Any other questions? Yes, back there.
Is there a different cost for, say, for instance, if I was packing my product and walking to Canada Post compared to becoming a member of like an account, Canada Post account?
Okay, you're a little bit far, but I think I heard your question. So you asked, and correct me if I'm wrong, so you asked, is there a difference in the price if I just walk up to a Canada Post counter versus if I have an account with Canada Post? Is that correct? Yes? Okay. Yes, there is a difference. So, so if you just walk up to the counter as a consumer, you would pay what we call counter rates. But then we have various different programs. So the first one is what I called Solutions for Small Business. It's, again, the free program that you can just sign up online. You could do it right now within a couple minutes, and then you can start to earn discounts. So you would start right away at what we call a small business rate, which would be a level 1 to 4, depending on what you would, how much you ship. But again, the program basically graduates you automatically. The more you ship, the more you save, and gives you deeper discounts as you ship more and more. Once you go past a certain threshold of very high volume, then you can start to have a discussion with one of our sales representatives for a commercial contract, which is level 5 and above for the larger businesses. So.
Does that include like barcode systems as well? Should I need the memberships receive a barcode system so I can I would have my computer set up to my barcode system, print just drop it out, and have the same system that you would have as well that you I'm calling for requesting. Is that
Yep.
a network of services as well?
Yeah. As long as you use your Canada Post customer number, when you print the label, you can induct it anywhere. Like we can do pickup or you can drop it off retail. It's no problem. It all goes against your volume. Yeah. Great. Yes, another question?
We're shipping packaged products like, cookies or things like groceries. Do we need to add an extra form to ship it over to the U.S., or can we ship it like we normally would to Canada?
Okay, again, I'm gonna try. So you asked, so you ship grocery type items like cookies, and you ask if shipping to the U.S. you need an extra form? Okay, so I mean, there are forms that you need to fill out to ship to the U.S., like customs declaration forms. Maybe we can have this one a little bit more one-on-one if your product is a little bit more specific. But there are, any time that you go cross-border of any sort with any product, there are customs forms that need to be filled out. But yes. Okay. Yes, back there?
Taxation part. I mean, like for the shipping costs, sometimes import tax is different or export tax is different for different products, right? Now, do you have an in-house customs consultant, or you have a blanket cost for shipping rates taxation?
Okay, so your question was again, referring to shipping outside of the country, correct? So duties, taxes, outside, yes. So there are obviously taxation rules that are not they're not really Canada Post rules. They're CBSA, like they're the Border Services rules, but we do have tools to help you calculate how much that would be. So there is a tool directly on CanadaPost.ca. There are also tools to help you, fill in the forms and find that product code and so on. Again, maybe if you want some more consultation, either myself or there's the team at the table that can help and guide you towards the right location to find that information. Would that be okay? Yeah? But that's the reality of shipping either to the U.S. or international, is that there are duties and taxes and regulations that need to be followed.
Yeah, because sometimes it's cheap. I mean, like you order an item.
Yes.
It's cheap. But when it comes in, you have to pay import taxes. Sometimes it's cheaper than the item itself.
Oh, as a receiver, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's different ways to clear customs, right? There's the postal stream and then there's the commercial stream. So the postal stream is from postal organization to postal organization, and that goes through CBSA, and they basically review packages, and there's minimum thresholds where you pay or do not pay taxes. So depending on entering or leaving the country, obviously the entering into Canada, that threshold is extremely low, meaning that you will end up paying duties and taxes on a lot of packages, a lot more packages than you would, for example, if you lived in the States, where the minimum threshold is much higher for no duties and taxes. So, and then there's commercial stream where everything is basically cleared no matter what the amount would be. So obviously Canada Post stream is more on the postal stream, although we are putting in some services to help with the commercial clearance. But I feel like your question is very specific though, and I don't know if maybe we can just take this one offline and I can give you more information after. Okay, thanks. Yes.
In the case of loss or damage to goods and shipment, who holds liability?
If it's loss or damage, I mean, Canada Post has a liability for that. So there is insurance that can be purchased as well on the item. So some products would include coverage of insurance for the product itself inside the box, or it can be purchased. If the item is just lost in our mail stream, then obviously we are liable for that shipment. Okay? Any other questions? No, I think we're good. Okay, one more. Yes? So any key points for shipping outside of Canada? So first off, I don't know your product, but the one thing that I would say is that make sure that you investigate the country that you want to ship to, and look at the nature of your product. So some products are actually restricted in certain countries depending on what you ship. Make sure that you look at the taxation rules. So I know we touched on that a little bit, and again, each product is very unique, but make sure that you look at the total cost of what that shipment would be with the various different countries that you would like to ship to, depending again on the taxation rules that you would have. So, but there's ways to calculate that. There are tools to calculate that based on HS codes and so on that can help you basically gauge how much that would be. Okay, great. Well, thank you very much.